Hello and welcome back to my tutorials on how to use Mastodon. In this episode I would like to cover customizing your profile. Now at its core, customizing your profile is relatively intuitive on Mastodon, but you may not be aware of all the features that exist. So, without further ado, how do you get to the edit profile function? Well, you navigate to your own profile by clicking on your own name in the top left of the screen on desktop. On mobile, this would be in the slide out menu on the right. You click and you see a big button that says edit profile. You can click this button and you enter the edit profile mode. Here you can see every function you can customize, and I'm going to go through them one by one starting from the top. So at the very top you see this rectangle where you can upload a picture. This is the profile header. The profile header is basically just a decorative element, an image that is displayed at the top of your profile and in some other places throughout Mastodon where your profile is displayed. But it isn't used very frequently outside of your profile page. To add a profile header, you click on this button, you choose a file, I will choose this one, and then you get an opportunity to crop it to the correct aspect ratio, and you can zoom in and do whatever is necessary to make it fit. Then you click next, and you get the opportunity to enter some alt text. Alt text is a description for people who use screen readers, such as blind people, people with visual impairments, and it helps them to, in a way, see what is displayed on the screen. This is optional. You don't have to add alt text for your header image, but if you wanted to, you can. And if I had to add one for this image, I would enter a woman in a blue t-shirt is holding a apricot colored Mastodon. Then you click done and the image is uploaded and immediately saved. The next element is the profile picture, arguably the most important part of your profile because it's displayed literally everywhere where your account is displayed and maybe even in more places. To add one, you click this button, you choose a file, you get the opportunity to crop it. It will have to be a square in the end, so you can crop it. You click next, you once again get an opportunity to enter alt text for the reasons I described earlier. So just to give you an example, here I would enter that this is a blue Mastodon on a neutral background. You click done and the image is uploaded and saved, and now you have a profile picture. Now, keep in mind that on Mastodon, there are two groups of users who do not usually have a profile picture on their profile. One of those is new users who haven't set up their profile, and the second group is people who are blind, who have visual impairments, and for whom having a profile picture is not very important. Sometimes I see prejudice against people who don't have a profile picture because people assume it's a new account and therefore more likely to be a troll. But just keep in mind that some people don't upload one because they are visually impaired and it doesn't make sense for them. So moving on, the next item is the display name. Now, what is the display name? When you sign up, you choose what is called a username, which is very limited in what characters you can use, only Latin characters, numbers, and underscores. And this username can never be changed and it has to be unique. So you cannot have two different accounts that are using the same username. However, the display name does not have any of those limitations and it is always displayed next to your username. You can change it as many times as you want. You can include special characters, Unicode, emojis, even custom emojis in your display name, and it's going to be fine. You don't have any obligation to put your real name as your display name. In fact, you could just repeat your username, but make it fancier by changing the casing or adding some emojis. Of course, you could use your real name. You could use just a part of your real name, like your first name. For example, for me, this would be Eugene. This is what I would typically do. And then you just save and there you go. It's really straightforward. If you don't have a display name set, then anywhere a display name would be shown, it would just fall back to the username that you have. The next field is your bio. The bio is basically the text part of your profile. It can be anything you want, up to 500 characters. It's meant to be a way for you to talk a little bit about yourself and who you are, why you're here, why should anybody care about your profile. So I could write here, for example, something like, this is a test account that I'm using for my tutorial videos. And in the bio text, you can use links, hashtags, and mentions just like in posts. So for example, if I wanted to say, I am actually, and then I would type my real account's username, I am actually Gargaron at mastodon.social. And then I could add a hashtag like demo. There isn't an inherent benefit to using hashtags in bios. However, it's basically just a way to let people click through to the hashtag without further effort on their part and go and look at what people are posting under the hashtag. So you can also use links. Again, as I've mentioned in the video about posting on Mastodon, when you're using links, you need to make sure that they start with the protocol part. So for example, https://example.com rather than just example.com, because the latter will not be turned into a clickable link. So you always need the HTTPS part for it to be clickable. You can use emojis in your text and you can save it and it's there immediately. Now, while you can put links in your bio, and that's totally valid, it might not actually be the optimal place to put links because there is a better place. The better place is called custom fields. What is custom fields? Well, it is a way to show a table of easily digestible data on your profile. And it can be any data that you want to showcase. On other social media platforms, usually there is a very rigid structure to what you put on your profile. For example, it asks you to fill in the age or your homepage or your pronouns or your gender or your location. On Mastodon, you click Add Field, and then you can type in what kind of field it is yourself. So you could type in pronouns, and then type in, for example, he, him, which would be in my case. And then you can save it, and now you have a pronouns field on your profile. You can add another field and call it homepage. And type in a link. Again, it has to start with the HTTPS part. So https example.com. And then you can save it. And you can add another field that says anything you want. Occupation. Making a YouTube tutorials. As you can see, you can put literally anything you want. And what's the benefit? Well, unlike your bio, which is a potentially long piece of text that people have to carefully read through, custom fields are displayed front and center on your profile in a really easy to scan way. So people will see what you put there immediately, especially when it comes to links to your websites or your homepage or your Patreon or your whatever, anything that you desire. Custom fields is also the way that verification is done on Mastodon. We do not have an authority or organization that requests you to send them your documents proving your identity and your real name, and that then hands out a verified checkmark. Nor do we charge anybody $8 a month to give them a verified checkmark. Instead, the system on Mastodon relies on the fact that if you have a website that proves your identity just by existing, that you can link your website to your Mastodon profile and therefore confirm your identity. So this option is accessible to everyone, even if you're not a celebrity or a notable person. As long as you have a website, if you're, a hobby photographer, a blogger, or a journalist or a celebrity, almost everyone has some kind of homepage online that either, it has your name as the domain name, or it's just your online identity that you've established over the years that links everything that you do online together. If you have something like that, you can verify your identity that way. Whenever you do have a verified link on your profile, Mastodon will display it quite prominently in the interface, because we want people to make use of this information to find out if an account is real or not. This is a little bit more involved than having a simple check mark that says yes or no on whether this account is verified. But that system is not really democratic, because there's more than one person named John Smith in the world, right? Why should only one John Smith get to be verified when all of them have a right to their name? So the way this works is that instead of having a single check mark, wherever we display your verified status, it displays the link that is verified. That way, you as the observer can judge whether that makes sense or whether it's somebody else. So, for example, just before I proceed to showing you how to add a verified link, I will show you what one looks like. If we search for an account called War and Peace on Mastodon, you will see the first result is the account of War and Peace. It's a webcomic artist that is active on Mastodon. And you will see that right next to the amount of followers they have is their verified link to their homepage. Their homepage is warandpeace.com, and obviously it is the primary website that their comics are published on. So whenever you are familiar with the work of this comic artist and you know their website, and you go and you search for their account on Mastodon, you see that this account and their website are linked together, and therefore this is their real account. And if we go and click on their profile, you can see that they actually have more than one verified link. The first one is the ones that's shown most prominently, and yeah, these are their custom fields. Their website, their shop, all links, and Patreon. Makes total sense. Okay, moving on to how to add a verified link. Well, first you would click on this link that actually kind of explains how to do this in text form. So you click on how do I add a verified link. This page will contain 2 steps, but I'm just going to explain it to you without using the text, because this is what I'm here for. So the first step actually gives you a piece of code that you can use to put it on your website. Now, if you are a person who runs a website of any kind, I imagine that you know what HTML code is, or at least how to edit the template of your website. This is possible if you're running a WordPress blog, a Tumblr, a Shopify website, probably also Squarespace. Any kind of website typically allows you to edit the template of the website in some way, and the template will involve either HTML itself or some templating language that is then transformed into HTML. So what you get here, and what you can use this link to copy paste, is basically just a link to your own profile. So for purposes of a demonstration, I have this JS Fiddle website here that is supposed to be an example of what the code of your own website could look like. This is very simple. What if your page only contained the words "this is my website" in a single paragraph? But imagine that is your website. So you would paste the code that you copied earlier into the code of your website. And what is this code? Well, it is just a hyperlink that links to your Mastodon profile. And the special bit about it is this attribute over here called rel. Rel stands for relationship, and it contains the value me. This is the bit that Mastodon will use to interpret this link as an affirmative statement that this website and that profile are related. The content of the link is actually irrelevant. It says Mastodon by default, but you could write anything you wanted in here, including just removing it, completely hiding it. You could put this link in the head of your page instead of the body, so that it's not visible. This isn't really about getting links back to Mastodon. It's more about establishing the relationship between websites. So once you have that on your website and it is running live, that is the time to either add the link to your website to your profile, or to simply save your profile again. So let's say, the JS Fiddle over there that I have isn't an actual website that I can link to. It's just, demonstrating how the code might look. But let's imagine that my website was example.com. So all I would need to do is, after adding the link, is I would add my website as a custom field to my profile, and I would click save. At that point, Mastodon would go and check the contents of the website that I put into my custom field and check if there is a link back to my profile. And if there is, that link will be marked as verified, and it will be displayed with a green check mark, as I've shown with the War and Peace account. So that's how you get a verified link on your profile. The next section is called featured hashtags. Now, what does this do? You can set a number of hashtags to be permanently displayed on your profile as clickable links that let viewers and visitors filter your profile by those hashtags. So, for example, let's say you are an artist and you publish your work regularly, and you're using different kinds of hashtags to categorize what you're posting. Perhaps some is watercolor art and some is oil painting, and so you use hashtag oil painting or hashtag watercolor. And you want to allow your visitors, people who are viewing your profile, to easily sort your posts and view only the oil paintings or only the watercolors. So what you could do is you could add hashtags and then just enter, whatever hashtags you want to feature. For example, watercolors. So you would click and add, and then the other one would be oil painting. Click and add, and you're done. Now, let me show you what this looks like. And I will show you this on my real profile because it will actually have posts that go into hashtags and not just empty hashtags. So we would go to my profile, Carver on Mastodon Social. Here is where the featured hashtags are displayed, right under the posts and boosts dropdown. As you can see, my featured hashtags are film photography, plush to dawn, cats of Mastodon, and now playing. Now, what happens if I click one? If I click on Mastodon, you will see that these are my posts that are about the Mastodon plush toy, specifically. If I go and click on Cats of Mastodon, you will see that these are cat pictures I have posted. And if I click on Now Playing, you will see that these are songs that I have posted that I was listening to at the time. So that's what featured hashtags are, and I think they're really cool because it is a way to make sure that people find your important pieces of work or writing. Because it's, when you just looking at somebody's profile and it's just this chronological view of everything that you've boosted and posted, it's really easy to just miss the important bits that you really care about because they're among everything else. And this is a way to highlight them and say, okay, I post a lot of film photography, so how about you look at it? And then you can scroll through it and see everything. Okay, let's go back to editing the profile. The next section is a group of a few other settings that you can customize. I'll explain them in very short order. So if you click Customize, you'll see that there is a couple of checkboxes that control how your profile is displayed. The first one controls whether your profile shows a media tab at all. So the media tab, if you've ever seen a Mastodon profile, is basically a way to show all of your posts that contain pictures or videos or audio in them. And so with this option, you can just decide, no, I don't want that on my profile. The second option is whether the media tab, if you have it enabled, whether it includes replies or not. The third option is whether the featured tab should be displayed. I will talk about the featured tab a little bit later. The last option is whether to show followers and following. Now, what you can do on Mastodon is you can say, I want to keep the list of people I am following and the list of people who follow me private from other people. So if you uncheck this, then you yourself will continue to be able to scroll through the list of people who follow you and people you follow, but random visitors to your profile will not be able to view that page at all. So all of your relationships and connections to other accounts will be hidden from praying eyes. There is one more advanced setting, which is you can say that the account you're running is an automated account. All this does is put a little note on your account, sort of like, I believe sometimes it's displayed as a little robot icon, and it's meant to signal to other people that it is a, as it says, automated account. Sometimes people run automated accounts on Mastodon, for example, accounts that regularly post weather updates or can respond to queries or run some kind of chess game based on what people write to the account. These are operated programmatically using Mastodon's API. So this option is for those developers who are running these accounts and they just want to say, okay, this is an automated account, so there's no point talking to it. There's no point in treating it like a person. So normally, as a normal user, you would not be making use of this because it would just be confusing, but the option is there. So, as I've said, the last bit is the featured tab. Now, what is the featured tab? For this, I will need to go back on the profile and show you. If you click on the featured tab, you'll notice that by default, it's empty. On this tab, you can feature A, specific accounts, and B, collections of accounts. Collections is a new feature that's coming soon to Mastodon, and I might make another video about that feature specifically. But the simplest way to demonstrate the featured tab without going into this new feature that may not be available to everyone at the time of writing is to just show you how to feature somebody else's profile on your own. For the sake of example, let's go to my wife's profile. Let's make sure that we're following her. And then we can click Feature on Profile in the drop-down menu under the 3 dots. And you will be able to see when you go back to your Featured tab that her profile now shows up under the Featured Profiles section. And once collections are available for everybody, every collection that you make that is public will be displayed on this tab in this section. It's basically a way to show accounts that you endorse or accounts that you want others to find on your own profile. A way to give back to the community or to the people you care about. So, is there something I haven't covered that you really wanted to know in this video? Then please comment below and I'll try to answer it. Thank you again for watching and have a nice day. Goodbye.